Right, well, welcome everyone to Trend Vision One Email and Collaboration Security Advanced. Go ahead and get started here. Peter O'Brien, I'm one of the instructors here at Trend. Been with Trend about 12, 13 years. Came on with the acquisition from Tipping Point. So been around for a while, mainly focusing on the Tipping Point product, but when the Trend Vision One platform came out, started using it, and been doing these trainings. So not only do I do the trainings, but we also have a hardware lab in Austin, Texas that we used to use for our tipping point training. I've also deployed the Trend Vision One platform in, so I've been using it as well as teaching it. So today we're going to go over just the email and collaboration security section. So hopefully at the end of this, you'll be able to describe the different risks and challenges that we face in protecting email accounts, as well as the major capabilities of the Trend Vision One platform with the email and collaboration security. And then also be able to implement the protection for the email and collaboration services. So we do have labs in this session that will let you go through and get some practice on that. So before we start, I know it says that post questions in the QA panel, but that doesn't always show up with a notification. So prefer to do it in chat because I'm always monitoring that. And then if you haven't done so already, you can download the student guide from the education portal, and that will be what there's also, I believe, a lab guide in there as well that you can access. So let's go ahead and get going here. So before we talk too much about the email piece of it, let's talk about just the attack surface in general, since email is one component of that. So as we're probably all aware, cyber criminals are constantly innovating, finding new ways to exploit vulnerabilities and target different attack surfaces. So we've got email, we've got endpoints, servers and workloads, cloud, just all sorts of stuff. So, there's been a huge growth in SaaS applications over the last few years. So like Office 365, I remember back when you actually installed Office on your local system, and now, of course, it's a SaaS application, along with tons of other stuff. And then, of course, over the last few years, with the pandemic, that moved that everyone or a lot of people work from home. So that was a huge shift, even though a lot of organizations are going back into the office. There's still a lot of people that are remote. And then, of course, the rapid growth of cloud native services and applications. So things like everyone using Azure, AWS, Alibaba Cloud. So quite a few changes in the landscape. There's also the supply chain. So you've got different software that utilizes other components. So if that one component gets compromised, then you've got that issue. The IT and OT convergence. So OT being operational technology, things like power plants, water treatment plants, things like this that use automation that used to be isolated, and then they started connecting it to the internet or to their IT systems, which made it easier to manage, but it also opened up a huge attack surface there. Once again, just constant change, but still the number one attack vector is still phishing, which is why the email security is so important. So according to some research, it's right now about 92% is phishing attacks. So organizations were This is just from their Microsoft 365 accounts or environments. So that's a huge amount. Then, of course, data leakage. So this is where people have accidentally leaked information through outbound emails. So either human error or maybe they weren't thinking about just sending it out to the wrong person. Seen that more than once. And then 85% of attack or account takeover can be traced back to phishing emails. So this is where someone takes over someone's email account. And of course, these often bypass traditional security measures by either exploiting signature-based defenses or emails that are originating from a compromised legitimate domain, which is why the account takeover attack is so scary. Then, of course, the consequences of a successful phishing attacks are definitely not to be ignored. Research shows that 55 or 54% of the businesses lost money because customers stopped doing business with them after a phishing attack happened. So, not just the reputation, but then the financial loss. And I see we have a question. Oh, thank you. There we go. That's probably a lot better. Apologize for that. But that right there is exactly what I was just saying as far as the percentages. Thank you, Bruno. Then some other research that they've done that indicates 74% of the breaches include a human element of either misuse or error. So once again, it's still that social engineering attack is very successful. Humans still are going to make mistakes, and especially with phishing attacks, it's just it happens. You get in a hurry, you're not thinking, you click on a link, and next thing you know, you've been compromised. Also, they've looked at some of our incident responses, and 52% of trend IR incidents started with phishing. So, and then at least 50% is from social engineering attacks that are particularly for business email compromise scams. So this is where someone takes over that business email. Again, that cyber criminals keep evolving, and of course they just keep using more and more tools. AI, they're using that to make it more convincing for their phishing emails. So, and as it says there, extortion and business email compromise keeps growing with a loss of over 2.7 billion US. So not a small number there. And then global crime, cybercrime, just in the US, 28 or has resulted in 28 billion losses over the last 5 years. So as you can see, it's something that's profitable. So, and then I said employees, social engineering still something. So employees clicking on the wrong thing, the lack of awareness, which you would think that by now that they would, but still, that's why training, they get into that sense of security, to think, oh, well, we've got systems in place, so we don't have to be as careful. And then, of course, there is that increase in phishing emails for credential theft. So, like I said, I've been reading lots of reports where they are using AI to make the emails a lot more convincing. And then we have the different attack tactics. So, they always try to find new ways to expand beyond email to all communications. So collaboration tools, even, or malicious QR codes. That's why I still have a problem using QR codes when I'm out, because it may not be anything malicious, but you never know. And then the other one, the MFA attacks the adversary in the middle. That's I'll show you an example of that later, but that's kind of a scary one. So here's an example, just kind of a straightforward phishing email attack. So just involving a deceptive message with a link that would take an employee to a web page that would then prompt them to enter their personal information like their username, password, or ID, or credit card details. And when they set these up, they are very meticulously planned. I said they're using AI now to make it more convincing, and they're usually carried out in several stages. So then once they have a successful attack, then they can start compromising other devices and systems, and also do ransomware, encrypt it, and get payments. So this is the one that's kind of a little bit on the scary side, if none of them else are. So here's an example of the latest one, which bypasses MFAs, or also called the adversary in the middle attack. So here you see the user receives email with the phishing link, just like they normally would, but it takes them to a fake Microsoft login page. And like I said, they've gotten really good at making it look convincing. So you think, oh, okay, it's legit. So they enter their account password. Then the phishing page would show a fake MFA page. So once again, they enter the second phase authentication, and it's actually interacting with the real Microsoft page that then steals the token. So then they have access to it. So definitely a little bit on the scary side. I every so often see a website pop up. I'm sure it's our internal IT trying to do some management, but we always kind of are a little leery on clicking on things, especially if it's asking for credentials. So another thing that's a challenge is just as it shows the silos with tool sprawl. So each department may have their own tools that they're using. They may not talk to each other. So that's always fun because then you've got people who are not seeing the whole picture. It's just you're missing all that visibility across different departments and different tools. So it makes it extremely challenging to get a full visibility across the infrastructure. Also, there's the challenge with users collaborating beyond email. So things like Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, SharePoint. So all these are very effective for communication and teamwork, but it also poses a risk. So especially if account gets compromised, then people can start using those tools and continue to compromise other systems. And that's where the Trend Vision One platform comes in. It does allow you to see across the whole infrastructure as long as you connect stuff into it. So, as long as I've got my endpoint security, network security, email, which is what we're discussing today, all these things, you'll get that big picture. And it not only gives you the visibility, but then gives you that risk exposure management, which allows you to prioritize what risk you need to address first, and then go and remediate those. We also have all the threat intelligence that's built into it, including AI features. So definitely something that I've utilized. Like I said, I use it in our lab and it really does help show all the things that you would normally miss. And then for the email piece of it, which is why we're here. So this will let you manage your email infrastructure with SaaS, on-prem, your Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace. You can do all this directly within the Vision One console. So with this integration, you don't have to have multiple product level consoles, which is one of the things that I enjoy because in my lab I had Apex One, I have my Tipping Point, I have my deep security. I don't have to jump through all these different consoles now. I can just do it from the Trend Vision One console. So same thing here with the emails and collaboration security. So from here, you can also set it up to prevent phishing, ransomware, also protects against business email compromise attacks. So all these different items makes it a lot easier than jumping around from one area to the other. Then I said we have that threat research. So the zero-day initiative, that's for the vulnerabilities and exploits that came from the tipping point. And we also have 16 research centers around the world that have hundreds of threat researchers that are constantly looking for new exploits and vulnerabilities. So that's also kind of cool. And the Zero Day Initiative, if you're not familiar with that, it is a bug bounty program. It's been around for quite a while, I think since 2006, 2007. And so they'll have actually 3 contests every year where they bring in researchers that try to find new vulnerabilities in different applications, OSs, and then they award them certain dollar amounts. So not a bad way of making money, and it also helps everyone else because then we find all these new 0 days. And then we also work with global law enforcement organizations. So we work with Interpol, Department of Homeland Defense, and many other law enforcement organizations around the world. All right, so that brings us to the first hands-on lab, which is not a lot. It's just making sure that we can get you into the lab environment before we start moving into the actual email portion. So what I would like everyone to do is in the chat, if you would please put your email in there, that we can assign the lab to you. Thank you, Bruno. Thank you, Sebastian. And just give me a few minutes here while I get everyone's name in here. Mm, almost done. And while I'm doing this, if you want to put in the chat how much experience you've had with the platform, and if you've used the email component of it yet, just give me an idea of how much experience everyone has. Yes, Vaughn, you got your hand raised. Just we'll put your question there in the chat. I think I got everyone's email. Let me get this assigned to everyone. I think in the future they're going to have a way of doing this where we don't have to go in and assign as much, but we shall see. All right. Thought they were going to be sent. Let me try again. Okay, it says they have been sent. So once you receive it, just let me know in the chat. See, some folks have a little bit of experience with the product. Anyone received the email yet? Thank you, Bruno. You. Once you receive it, just let me know if it does take you to the portal. And it's probably going to ask you about accessing or signing in. All right, cool. And I will send you the credentials here in a minute because it's using single sign-on, which only works for internal folks. Okay. Thank you, Abraham. Thank you, Leonardo. Well, so it seems like everyone's getting it. So what we'll do next is in the chat, I'm going to put your student assignments. They can log into the portal. And all this, it looks like it's going to format okay. All right, so just find your email there in that list. And then on the right will be your student that you'll be using for the login for the Vision One portal. And then the password is going to be the same for everyone. So super secret password here. And that X after the D is actually an X. It's not, you don't replace it with a number. So that should allow you to log into the console. So it's for you. So everyone's logged in, we will then proceed to the next section. Okay, let me try to send it again, Rodrigo. It's just sent, so let me know. Yes, Yvonne. Okay. Yeah, like I said, if you put it in the, oh, can't open the chat. Okay. Okay, I thought I sent it to that email address, but let me try again. And okay, that's, I guess that protects you from getting anything malicious. So what I can do is, I think even without that portal or the going through the product experience, I think you'll be able to still do it using just this URL. Put that in the chat. I think you should be able to access the portal that way, just using those credentials that I provided in the chat. Just make sure you use your student number that's been assigned. And then on the same thing, you should be able to access it that way. The only downside is you'll have to open up the lab guide separately, but not a big deal. So sure if everyone's able to get there now. Okay. Was that the one from the email? When you click on here, let me, yeah, I'll show. And that's, you may have to just use that link I sent for the portal. So is it saying invalid when you click on Vision One here and do this? Is that where it's giving you the invalid credentials when you click on this link? Okay. Well, if that's where it's saying invalid credentials, try just going to the portal xdr.trendmicro.com. Yeah, that's what, okay, it's that SSO. So just do it this way. Go to the portal like I just did. And what you'll do is, for instance, whichever student I've assigned you, for instance, if we take Bruno's as being student 2, so he will put in student 2 at this. And then for the password, it's going to be that's ST X, what was it? Dash CECP 2025. Saying it's wrong. Yeah, I just saw that. Um, uh, disregard. I know what's going on. So here's what you'll need to use. We'll all use the same exact username and password. You'll use that when you start sending emails and stuff. So For the portal, this. So everyone will use that for your login. ECP at z3ynv.com. Microsoft. And then it's better. So yeah, let me know if I think everyone should be able to, since this is the same credentials for everyone. So you'll notice it doesn't have all the icons that you normally have. They've created this account and only given permissions for pretty much the things that would relate to the email and collaboration. So, all right, seems like everyone's being able to get in. And also, I think Yvonne was saying they were having trouble seeing the chat, so let me put that here. Okay. Yeah, I saw you jumped out and came back in. We'll set here. And Emerson, just use the username that I've just posted. So the CECP, not the student one. You'll use the student one or student two, whatever I signed earlier when we start doing the actual emails. So is there anyone that hasn't been able to log in with the CECP at 5Z3YND and then the password? Then I will take that as a good sign that everyone's good. We will proceed on. So there are different components underneath the email and collaboration security. So as you can see there we have an email asset inventory. We have the email and collaboration sensors. Sorry, Yvonne, I thought that was in there, but okay. Give me just a second. There we go. Thank you. There we go. We also have the email and collaboration sensors section. then the cloud and email collaboration protection portion, and then finally the cloud email gateway protection. So each of these provide different functionality. So for the email asset inventory, that's going to allow you to manage your email assets in the environment. So including email accounts, domains, the email servers, and then you can take action on those accounts that have issues, not to mention view the detailed information about the email accounts and domains, as well as the protection policies. Then the email sensor, or that's going to allow you to manage the Trend Vision One email sensors in your environment. So after you deploy those for the email service, then you can enable those, enable the sensor detection and response for email accounts. And then also email sensor detection and response will send activity to the Trend Vision One data lake. That way for that detection and alerting. The cloud email and collaboration protection component, that's going to provide advanced protection for the cloud email services such as Exchange Online, Gmail, and those collaboration services like OneDrive, SharePoint Online, Teams, things like that. And then that's also going to provide the protection against ransomware, your phishing, those business email compromise attacks, and other malware and unauthorized transmission of sensitive data. And then finally, the cloud email gateway protection. That's going to be what provides updated protection to stop phishing, ransomware, pretty much the same thing as before. It's going to do it for Microsoft Exchange Server, Office 365, Google Gmail, and other cloud or on-prem solutions. So here's some of the features and specifications. I know it's kind of a lot here, but you can see here which ones, email gateway protection, and then your email and collaboration protection. So the different components that it supports. This one's kind of cool. I'll talk about it later, but the writing style analysis. And then with the XDR and ASRM, or what's now called CREM features. So here we can see the XDR components. See some of this, and if you see ASRM, just think CREM or CREM. It's the same concept. The names have changed. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here with some of the components. So if you're using this for the platform for the first time, there are some things that you will have to configure for the environment. So things like navigating around dashboards, provisioning new accounts and services. So let's take a look at how to get started in the console and see how to do all this. So first of all, if you haven't set this up, you would need to set up product instances. So you need to set up the cloud app security or the Trend email security, depending on what you have. And then that provides you that email and collaboration security component. And then the Trend Vision One email and collaboration security has two capabilities for this. So it's the cloud email and collaboration, as well as cloud email gateway protection. So this kind of has both of those pieces. There are other Trend micro products for email. So these products can be integrated to the Trend Vision One email and collaboration. That way it submits the detection logs and telemetry data. So we have the ScanMail product, then the InterScan, and then the Deep Discovery Email Inspector, or the DDEI. All right, so to set up the product instances, if you've used the Vision One console before for other components, it's similar. You will go to the product instance, and you will need to go in to create product instance and define what new protection manager is going to need. So whether it's the email, in this case, the cloud email and collaboration, or the cloud email and gateway protection. And then, of course, you will, for either one of them that you're setting up the instances for, you'll give it a name that's meaningful for you. Pick the region, and of course, a description if you so desire to make it a little bit more meaningful. And then you save that. It will provision that instance. And then you can come over here to your email and collaboration security operations. So you can see your email assets. So here you can see an example of all the different assets that we have here. Different accounts. It'll show you if there's an immediate action required for something. So you click on that and go in and take action to figure out what's going on. And you can also go in one of these accounts. And as you can see here right now, the email sensors detection is enabled, but for the cloud email and collaboration protection, that's only partially enabled. So depending on what you're trying to do, you might want to go in and finish enabling that or enabling all the features. All right, so to provision new email. So the email sensors will allow you to send that email activity and telemetry into the data lake within Vision One. So this is going to allow the advanced detection and response capabilities. So to enable the sensors, we'd go over to the email sensor section. So under here, there's a section here, and I'll show you later in the actual interface. But you go there, and if you haven't set anything up yet, by default, it'll prompt you to set up the email sensor for Exchange Online, as it's showing here. But you do also have Gmail and other email services that you can select. And then, as it shows here with the Exchange, it will have you go through these steps. The one thing that you do have to have is global admin permissions for these accounts, which we don't have for ours. But if you don't have it, you need to get a hold of whoever's the global admin for those Exchange or Gmail accounts. And it says you can even share this with your email administrator. That way they can provide access. Once you have that, you can set up your policies. So this is, as you can see here, under policy management, advanced threat protection. If you don't have any policies yet, you can always do add policy, and we'll actually walk through that here in the labs. But you can see here they've already created some. You can see if they're enabled or not. So if the status is over here, that's enabled. And you can see here the default Exchange Online policy for the advanced threat protection is this one's for monitor only. So it's not going to do anything except do logging or notification. And then you can see the rules. So AS stands for the anti-spam protection. The MS is for malware scanning and file blocking, web reputation. The VA, it's for the sandboxing. And then same thing here, CL. I have to go back and check. I looked at it earlier. But when you go in here to edit the policy or when you're creating it, it'll actually show you what these are for, or if you highlight over them. So for customers that are using the platform for the first time, once again, you'll have to do some tasks to configure it. So let's take a look at one of these here with the cloud email and collaboration protection. So this is another component of it. And the way this works is that it's going to work in layers to stop threats like ransomware, credential phishing, and the BECs. So the first layer is going to be, at least for Microsoft, it'd be for Microsoft 365's built-in security. And that's going to block known threats like malware, malicious websites, and that's using signatures and reputation services. Then our additional layer, we also are blocking known threats using Smart Protection Network. So those are blocking additional known threats using some advanced intelligence. Then we have the multi-layer scanning. So that's using machine learning, threat analysis, and sandboxing to detect those unknown threats and phishing attempts. So that's going to help with the unknown component. And then we also have the auto retro scan. That's going to go back and look. And then, of course, the pre-execution machine learning. So we do take advantage of AI and machine learning for protection. And then, like I was saying, the sandbox analysis. And to give you an example, last year we detected an additional 26 million threats using this multi-layer security approach. So not a small number there. All right, so detecting unknown malware. So as I showed earlier, it's have that pre-execution machine learning that's helping. So we are using AI and machine learning for that. And that's before emails even reach the sandbox. This is going to analyze thousands of file features to predict malicious content, improving that email delivery speed. That way it's not having to spend time in the sandbox getting analyzed. We also have document exploit detection. So this technology is going to scan for files that are both known and potential exploits that help us identify even new zero-day attacks. And then the sandbox analysis, that's going to use multiple OSs to analyze suspicious files for malicious behavior. And then we've got a pre-filtering that helps with the analysts or the time. So it usually takes like 3 minutes. And then the AI and machine learning, we combine that for helping with the business email compromise and credential phishing. So for that, we first run email behavior scanning, such as abnormal email routing behavior, or the sender's name is similar to a company's high-profile user. Then we also check the email content for any suspicious intentions, such as financial impact. So, please approve this $25 million PO, quick, things like that. And then, well, we could have stopped there for the BEC detection. We also have a second layer, and this is what I was saying I thought it's pretty cool, is the writing style and authorship analysis. So this is a writing style AI-based model that's built for each high-profile user. And then when an email comes in saying it's from that user, the model will check to see if it is indeed from them. So it's analyzing how they usually write emails to detect that. We also have computer vision plus AI. So this is an image analysis to help stop phishing attacks. So this, we call it computer vision plus AI, and it's examining things like logos and login forms on a web page. And then it compares these visuals to the website's actual address. So for example, if a website looks like Microsoft, but the URL isn't a Microsoft address, the system would recognize it as a fake and block it. And they're constantly training this model to identify spoofed versions of popular websites like Microsoft and banks, which helps with those things like the adversary in the middle attack, where it was pointing it where it looked like it was actually a Microsoft login, but it wasn't. It's kind of like what's shown here. Because if you're not really paying attention up here to the URL and you're just, okay, well, it's looking for my authentication and it looks like the normal Microsoft. But as we can see, it's not. And then we also have internal phishing. So we've got the where someone's already gotten into the network and they've already compromised an employee's account and then use it to send fake phishing emails within the company, which that definitely is kind of scary because it looks like it's someone from internal because it is, but they've been compromised. Also, collaboration tools. I'm sure all of us use these. I mean, we're using it right now with Teams, but we can use that to safeguard the platforms like OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, things like that. So what this is referring to, of course, I'm sure most of us have shared files through cloud storage links and stuff, an email attachment, even though we may still do that, both of them. So that's what this does for us. And then the response and remediation. So this allows you to do manual scans, create policies. So once again, we'll show you that here in a minute when we get into the labs. And then we also have a feature called URL time of click protection. So what this is it helps stop time bomb attacks. So normal email security would scan URLs before delivery, but some attacks use a delayed threat. So that way it gets around these where it scans it before delivery. So to combat these types of attacks, you can enable the URL time of click protection within the policy. What this does is rewrite the URLs in the emails. So when someone clicks, the link is checked again for safety in real time before they reach the destination. So that way it prevents that. So what it'll do is it'll just, when they click on it, it'll redirect it to a Trend Micro web proxy, and that URL will be checked again in real time. Again, the collaboration protection, so all these different ones. DLP, so the data loss protection for it. So we have, as it says, over 240 built-in templates to help with the compliance. Then we also have the manual scan, and then that real-time scanning for the internal email and the cloud file sharing. I mentioned earlier about QR. So we also have a system that goes in and does QR analysis, so we can extract the link from a QR code in an email, and then we send that extracted link for additional security checks. So we can mark suspicious emails, we can allow it to pass on through, we can isolate it, and then we could even delete it. So and then we also have a end user feedback portal. So you can check the reported emails as spam, phishing. So that allows you go in here and do that. You can set up an approval workflow for end user reported emails to trend. That way, you can decide whether that email should be submitted for approval or not. Show that here. And it also has, it says the Microsoft Information Protection integration. Saw that, so looks like a redundant slide. All right, so email and collaboration security. So talked about that, the CECP. We do have the dashboards here. So you go over here to the email. You can see the cloud email and collaboration protection dashboard. I'll show you if the agent is online and has permission or status. We can see if the policies are enabled. You can get a quick glance at how things are doing. Then Exchange Online, if you're going to grant permission, once again, you can do that and select if you're going to use the default advanced threat protection policy, if you're going to use just the monitor only or no policy. So you just grant access to that. Once again, have to have global admin rights. Add these. Also, usually when you first start this, you probably want to just use the monitor only just to kind of gauge it, see how things are doing, and then move it into something else that could take action. And then the threat detection dashboard. So as you can see here, we had the service status earlier. Now we have threat detection. You can see the overall, how many files and messages have been scanned, if there have been any business email compromise detections, phishing, ransomware, different things. And you can see here in this case, ransomware detections, 3 of them in the last 24 hours for Exchange. It gives you a nice breakdown to see what's going on. In the configuration health, here you can see how things are doing as far as your configuration of the email and collaboration. And then here for business email compromise, we've got 3 features that have not been adopted, so it's only partial. And here we can see what's not been adopted here. So they have not enabled that writing style analysis or the high profile domains or the spoofing detection here. Back to our email asset inventory. Do not ask me why we have email asset inventory, but the abbreviation's ENI. We've asked people that and have yet to get an answer. But once again, this just shows all the sections go from the email account inventory to the domain, server inventory. Do that, and we can filter out by organization as well if we want to do that. And we've already seen the provisioning email sensors. So again, I've done this, so it's some duplicates. So here, I'll show you what we were talking about earlier. If I pull up my environment. We have our email asset inventory that we were just looking at. Just like in the slides, we can see all the accounts with all the organizations where we can narrow it down. So for instance, student 22, default. If there were any that needed some immediate action, we could see that. We can also see how many have email sensor detection disabled. So quite a few. And then the account inventory, the domain, and that email server. We could actually come in here and look at some of these. So for instance, say student 16, you can see some of the profile. So it's not a high profile user. You can see the email protection. The email censor is not enabled. And you see the service. And if we wanted to see the policy applied to this, click on that. You can see partially enabled. And you can see which ones are and are not. We can click on that. To that policy. We can see that it is enabled. You can see the different sections here. And if we wanted to add users, or we could do that here as well. When you are setting up a new policy, enable it. And then in this case, we're doing the student. And you just pick whichever one, since that said student 16. A good idea to choose that one. To change any of the parameters, good advanced spam protection. Do that. Good. Able to display name spoofing detection. There's that writing style analysis. Lock. And for actions, maybe for spam, I think they're going to have you do this in the lab, but instead of moving it to the junk email, maybe pass it or tag it. You can just tag it as spam. And if you want to get notifications, you can administrator of this. You can either do the group or specify. And then you would just save. Different rules. If I hover it, there you go, correlated intelligence. And then that's the virtual analyzer. Notice we can kick off a manual scan here. Could do that. That is how to do the policies. Notice we also have down here cloud email and collaboration. We have that dashboard that we were talking about. Let's see that. Just the QR, the quishing. So that brings us actually to the labs. So this says 40 minutes. I'm going to say an hour just in case. And if we need more time, that should be fine. So was everyone able to download or access the lab guide from the education portal? And just let me know if we're not able to log into the console and if you're able to get to the lab guide or not. All right. If you're still working, not a big deal. You'll still be able to complete it later. The lab should be available for even after the class ends. So let's go ahead and talk about cloud email gateway protection. It's also under that same section. So here we can see fits in. So the cloud email gateway protection is a solution that's delivers continually updated protection, just like the other components, to stop the phishing and ransomware, business email compromise, all those. And it's provides advanced protection for Microsoft Exchange, uh, Office 365, Google Gmail, other cloud or on-prem email solutions. And it allows administrators to set up policies to handle email messages based on different threats detected. So, for example, an administrator could remove detected malware from an incoming message before they reach the corporate network, or maybe they want to quarantine a detected spam or other inappropriate messages. So, what this does, or how it works, uh, is it's intercepting the emails through an Exchange record redirection. And so it's redirecting it to the cloud email gateway protection inbound mail transfer agent servers, and then does that protection and analysts that way. So it provides protection for both hosted as well as on-prem email solutions. You can see an example here. So some of the requirements, so you do have to have an existing mail gateway or work group with SMTP connection. So examples, as I show there, a local MTA or mail server, or you could also have a cloud-based MTA solution. You will also have to have access to domain MX records, so the DNS mail exchange host records, for repointing those MX records to the gateway. And then, of course, a browser that supports JavaScript for the management console access. So some of the features of the gateway protection. So you've got the ability to do the sender filters, the reputation services, also the DMARC, so that domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. And then, of course, the standard virus, spam, and content filtering, as well as the DLP, or the data loss prevention. Other things that you can do, as I mentioned, you can do message quarantining, file password analysis, as well as that sandbox analysis. And then as far as the gateway protection for the data center locations, here you can see where we have different locations, so all over the world. Same thing with the sandboxing feature. They've got them in different regions. And then for the protection, you can go in, like I said, make different configurations. So for inbound configuration, you can do it once again by IP reputation, do the spam filtering, content policy. There's the DLP policy that you can set up. So you set this all up for the inbound, and then you can also do outbound policies. You can set that up as well. And this, as I said, very similar to the other components. So very short section on this. Here we will go ahead and let you move on to the next labs that focus on the gateway protection. And it says 20 minutes, but I'm give you about 30 just in case you're still finishing up on the other. I think you can actually do it again. So if you need more time, you can relaunch it. All right. So just a little bit more, right, and a little bit early. So, and if you're still working, I said, not a big deal. You can continue work even after the session. The last thing is just talking about CREM, or the cyber risk exposure management, which used to be ASRM, which this also fits into other components of the platform. So it's not just the email, but you can also take advantage of it with the email portion. So, like I mentioned before, being able to discover all the assets, so all your email accounts, all the devices, identities, things like that, helps with discovering all the attack surfaces, things that attackers can take advantage of. Once you actually know what you've got and can see that visibility, then you can actually start to prioritize uh, the risk mitigation. So, knowing what to address first, that way you can focus your resources on taking care of that, as opposed to something that is lower risk. So I do this all the time in my environment because I'm the only one that deals with it. So I've only got a limited amount of time. So I want to take care of those high risk items first and then work my way down. So even more so on a big organization. And then once you've identified those, then you can start doing remediation. Also, you can map those relationships, see how uh, email is tied to a user or other environments. So, how to mitigate? Well, if you've used the platform at much at all, you've probably seen this. So, here you've got the what used to be called executive dashboard. They've renamed it now, but the same subsections are still there. We have the risk overview, exposure overview, and you can see those email risk here. So let me actually see, go over to our lab environment so you can see that. And so the executive dashboard is now called Cyber Risk Overview. See the attack surface, its devices, different accounts. And then, as it was showing in the slide, you've got your security configuration. You can see if there's any configuration issues that need to be addressed. Over here to our attack surface discovery. Devices, the accounts. And you can see what's feeding the data lake here. So email sensor is one of them. And the out and email collaboration protection. See, same thing with applications. It's nice to be able to see that visibility. So here we've got our Microsoft OneDrive, SharePoint, those SaaS applications. And then you can actually try to go in and adjust those and take advantage of the risk rating to remediate things. So like here, the risk is low. So you may want to put that off as opposed to something that has a higher risk. And then it's just that constant discovering, assessing, and then mitigation. So here we can see, in this case, threat detection off of a OneDrive, a low risk level. as opposed to maybe something that was higher. But you can see here it was a PDF file in this case. Same thing here. It's no longer called operations. Let's see what they've named it to. The renaming just occurred back on the 1st of the month. The threat exposure management. See that? See the XDR detections, the vulnerabilities. There's one here, email sensor. See the assets with those risk events. Here are all those assets. Their student accounts here. And if we take a look at one of these, we can see that risk score, security configuration. So drill down and see what the items are that are making up this risk indicator. In this case, it's a sensor setting. It's not optimized. So if we open it up, it'll give us information. And the nice thing is it'll give us information on how to improve that. So we just go to this knowledge base article. Or in this case, we've got web reputation retro scan. This would probably take us to this knowledge base article that would show us how to enable that. And then the same thing here. Oh yeah, this is not good. This MFA disabled. So, as you can see, you can go in, quickly identify things that you might want to go in and remediate to improve that security posture. And of course, the protection against account takeover. You see here if there was a possible spear phishing attack. The account compromised if there were any. I don't remember seeing that in the lab environment, but we can actually see that. And then just like we were showing earlier with the account, you can see the account user in those risk indicators. I'll show you the asset graph, but you can see that here. Come back. See that here, risk rating. Go back to that student kit. There we go. There's the asset risk graph. See all the risk indicators for this. As it says, connect more data sources. So once again, the more you connect, the better visibility. You also see that correlation to what devices, if any. In this case, we don't. And same thing with profile. You can add additional information in here. Also, if you don't agree with asset criticality rating, you know, some of these you can change. Probably can't do it because of the permissions. Yeah. But depending on your permissions for your account in the console, you would be able to do that. See do the little dots here. And if I had permissions, I could disable this user account if it's been compromised or force a sign out. So I can actually take action on top of it. So, not sure, I know some of you have used the product before, but even if you're currently using it or just starting off, one of the things I've found useful, especially when you are starting off, is using the 30-day free trial. Gives you full access, so you can connect stuff to it, test it out, see what it does, get used to the interface. I find it very useful. Like I said, even if you've already got an environment, you could set this up in a lab just to try a few things out that you may not want to test out in production. And then we do have other courses or sessions for the other components of the platform. So if you haven't signed up for those, I do encourage that. So I do appreciate everyone joining today and hope to see you in the next session.